Hi, you're listening to Book Chat with author Vivian E. Moore.
Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode. We really appreciate you joining us. This podcast really shows us how we can all learn, live, and thrive off of each other. By sharing our knowledge through our conversations, we will impart some knowledge whilst learning ourselves how to progress even further. Here is your host.
Hello and welcome to Book Chat. I am your host, author Vivian E. Moore. Hope everyone had a great week, and I hope that you are having an even better weekend. All right, we're going to get straight to today's show. The title is Impressible, and the topic is how authors influence other authors. Well, let's talk about impressible. The word IMPRESS-ABLE. Okay, that's my word for today. In this world of literature, authors they're more interconnected than many realize, because every story and poem or essay stands not just as an isolated creation, but also as part of a larger tapestry that has been woven with the threads of influence from other writers, okay? So these connections, they highlight how one author's work can actually inspire and guide or even challenge another that contributes to a dynamic cycle of creativity. And that's always a great thing, right? We want to keep that cycle moving. We want to keep it flowing, okay? Now, this phenomenon is best captured by the concept of being, using my word today, impressible, okay? So, and what that is it is an acknowledgement that authors leave impressions on one another that shape the literary landscape across generations. Okay, so we're going to get into that more, all right? We're going to do that right now. So let's talk about the real meaning behind impressible, okay? So to be impressible, it is to be impressionable, all right? And in the best possible way, right? We're not talking about following the leader or things of that nature, okay? It means that you are reflecting on a fellow writer's ability, their openness to ideas, their themes, and then their techniques, right? And it's not about imitation, but more about absorbing that creative energy that sparks and then molds other writers into something uniquely personal, okay? Because, authors, they don't exist in isolation, right? They build on, they react to, or they refine what came before them. And there's nothing wrong with that. That is how authors write, okay? So now let's talk about, how does influence happen? Well, first of all, it happens through inspiration. And it happens through the inspiration of themes and ideas, okay? Many authors, they find inspiration in those themes that have been explored through maybe an act of heroism or mythology, okay, which has influenced countless fantasy writers that we know and love, okay, and as authors, we reinterpret, okay, those familiar themes, and then we can create those fresh narratives for new audiences, okay, because that's a plus, that's a win-win, all right? And the second thing is, sometimes you may see authors borrowing those styles and techniques of other writers, because writing styles, they often evolve when you borrow techniques from other authors. And it's just an example of how concise and a direct prose of those other authors that maybe influence consciousness that maybe you wasn't even aware of, as well as how you approach writing in general. we have seen authors' writings that can be seen in the works of other contemporary literary authors. Okay, and it's like I said, it's not plagiarizing or anything like that. It's just it's capitalizing on an idea that perhaps came from one author, and then you make it into your own. Okay, you're not using their their words verbatim. You're just making it better. Okay, updating it just a little bit. All right, the next thing is having those literary conversations that can actually reach across time. Well, how is that possible? Well, sometimes influence, it occurs as a dialogue between authors. This is a world that we live in now, that if you follow on social media, you see all the influencers that are out there. And of course, those influencers influence other creators, and the cycle just repeats, okay? And it's the same thing with writers, all right? And so, even though that influence may be separated by decades or even centuries, or even sometimes background, but still, those novels, they often echo that multicultural complexity and those worldviews, and also those legacies, okay? So the next thing is through mentorship and collaboration. Well, we know how important mentorship and collaboration is, right? That's one of the reasons why I do this show on a weekly basis, because influence often happens through, those direct mentorship or those collaborations. And sometimes, if you are involved in writing groups, or if you're one of those authors that love to do workshops, or even just having those simple exchanges of letter writing and that a lot of authors do. They sometimes do it on their websites and things of that nature. And what they're doing is refining their craft. And when they read the letters of other authors or the works of other authors, they're learning from them. Okay, so that's how we learn from one another. So if you think of the Inklings group, and we talked about this many moons ago about C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien, when they did a collaboration together back in the day, and many others too that have done it. So, but still, it's that mutual respect between those authors. And another one that comes to mind is Mary Shelley and Lord Byron. These are English authors, but still very prominent authors that we are so very well familiar with their works. Okay. So the next thing is by reactions and contrast. So we know that influence doesn't always mean agreement, right? Authors, they often react to others by challenging their ideas or their styles. I see that all the time. Okay, sometimes it's not a positive thing, but sometimes it can be positive as well. Even some of history's best poets, they rebelled against their predecessors as well, and against their structure and how formal their poetry was. But what they did was, instead of criticizing, they just carved out another way. Maybe it was raw or unfiltered, but still, they left that they created that literary niche. Okay, so why is being impressible important? Well, first of all, it fosters growth, because writers, they grow by engaging with others, right? And then they influence. It can broaden and then it can change the perspectives of a writer. And it also encourages experimentation, and it will also help you improve, okay? And it also creates continuity. Now, we've often talked about how we need the flow of continuity when we're writing, when we're telling a story, because that's important. So continuity, that influence, it ensures that literary traditions and innovations, they aren't lost, but are instead passed down, modified, and adapted. Okay? And then it also encourages diversity, right? We need that. Okay? So by being impressible, authors, they bring their own diverse voices into their work. And that, my people, is a reflection, a wide range of human experiences. Okay, we need that because we don't live in a vacuum. We need to see how other people live, how they create. Okay. And I just want to give you an example of examples and of influence in action. Okay, so let's talk about, since we're talking about British authors, let's talk about William Shakespeare, because we are well familiar with the works of William Shakespeare. Okay, and he was revered as a literary giant. Shakespeare's work has influenced writers for centuries. From Jane Austen to Margaret Atwood, right? His themes of love, Romeo and Juliet, power, and betrayal, they continue to resonate in countless modern adaptations. Okay, we've seen Romeo and Juliet done in so many different ways. We've seen Hamlet, it just never gets old. Okay, his work will live on till the end of time. I'm sure it will. Now let's talk about also another, if we're talking about diversity, let's talk about Toni Morrison, for example. Morrison's exploration of African American identity and history, it has inspired writers like Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, right? Who continues to explore themes of race and culture in their works, and also Haruki Murakami. All right, you may not be familiar, but you can look them up. Okay, their blend of magical realism, with the essential themes. They draw on Kafka and Hemingway while influencing a new generation of global writers. All right, it's just not where they are. It spans the entire globe. Okay, so being impressible as a writer, first of all, you need to learn to embrace the word impressible, that mindset, and you might also want to consider reading, not just in your genre, but reading a wide genre of books. Okay, you need to explore those diverse genres, those eras, and also those authors to enrich your perspective. And you need to engage in dialogue. You need to join those writing groups or discussions where you can share and refine your ideas. You can also analyze influences, okay? You need to reflect on how your favorite authors have shaped your writing. And then you need to experiment. And don't be scared to do it. Do it in a broad spectrum, okay? Take what you've learned and then innovate someone else by making your mark on the literary world will help them to make theirs as well. So to sum all of this up, being impressible is not a sign of weakness, okay, or a lack of originality, but of a writer's ability to learn and to grow from others. Because every story written is in some way a product of past influences and proof of the power of literary connection, okay? So the next time you pick up a pen or open a book, or remember you are part of a grand tradition of influencers where every impression matters. All right, folks, that is the show for today. I hope that you will continue to enjoy your day as you look forward to the coming week. And also remember to tell those who you care about the most how you feel about them today, because tomorrow is not promised and this may be the only chance you get to say it. So on that note, I love you. I hope you love me back. Until the next time you hear my voice, God bless you and goodbye.
Loved what you've heard on this week's episode? Well, the answer is simple. It would mean the world to us if you could head over to iTunes and leave us a 5-star review and feedback. Spreading the word really is the best way to grow our podcast and achieve even greater things. Thank you.